Representative Ilhan Omar is a Somali American who has been in politics for about the last 10 or so years. She's polarizing and she doesn't hold any punches. But one thing about her, she's Somali to the core, and that's a fact.
He's right, you know.
She went to have an interview on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. And of course, they were talking about the alleged scams and the fraud that has come out of the Somali community lately, and people have been exposing it. And when the interview is started, she's asked a very tough question.
Our Justice Department called it the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country. And this was pocketing COVID-era welfare funds, more than $1 billion in taxpayer money that was stolen. It was pretty shocking. Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
We're talking about the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, where $250 million of COVID-19 money intended to help feed children was basically siphoned off. And the person that was the ringleader from that was a Caucasian lady by the name of Amy Brock. But out of the 85 people that were indicted, 77 of those were Somalis. So if you divide 77 by 85, you get like 90.5%, and the calculation is there on the screen. If you get 90.5% in school your entire life, you're getting into every top level college. But what you hear Ilhan Omar respond with is this.
I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Boy, you don't sit your stupid ass down. Who the f*** you think you is?
She never addresses the 77 out of the 85 people in the fraud. She talks about Amy Brock, but she doesn't talk about the fact that her people are overwhelmingly involved in this fraud. And she says, well, listen, we have Somalis who are taxpayers too. And, we are also victims of this same fraud. And the Somalis, well, they're not as important because there was a Caucasian lady that was the head of the fraud. And instead of addressing the fact that, yes, 77 out of 85 people were from the Somali community, and just saying, yes, those people were convicted. It was our mistake. We had people in our community that should be held accountable for what they did, and there's no excuse. Our community must do better. We apologize for what has happened. She did not say that. She said, hey, our people are also victims, and we're not going to name who those people are who are responsible outside of the white person. So that's number one as a strike for the unaccountability. Then also it continues.
Because House Republicans and the Treasury Secretary just now talked about a link to terrorism, a possible link. He said they're just now beginning to look into it. How confident are you that that's a false claim?
So at this certain point, there are some claims that this money could have been used to fund terrorism with Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is a terrorist organization that does have Somali involvement. I've seen some terrible incidents that has happened in Kenya in the last 10 years. And I want you to see how she answers the question.
I'm pretty confident at the moment because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced. If there was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our court system in not figuring that out and basically charging them with these charges.
Now she says, listen, this scam was going on, but it's the federal government and the FBI agents. Like, they should have done something more or less about this because it's their job to catch the scam. What? Now, I want to talk about this because in all honesty, she is not lying. Part of the federal government is to understand that, hey, there are alerts that are happening, all right? Something isn't right, and we need to find a way to cut this off, okay? That's absolutely true. However, to then try to absolve her own community as if her community, 90.5% of the community, was not involved in this, is just complete effery, right? It's BS. Because while it is true that the federal government and the state government should have been, aware that this was happening, what is also true is that the people who were participating in the scam knew that what they were doing is wrong. And if you're a Somali American, and I know this about, almost all Africans, their parents teach them right from wrong. This is something that I know, especially in Muslim or Islamic communities. Stealing is a no-no. Fraud is a no-no. It is looked down upon. These people are taught this from the time that they are little. And so you have people from your community who profess Islam, who profess love for Allah, love for the Quran. And 77 of these people say, what we know that we're doing hurts the state of Minnesota, and we do not care. And so at the same time, if they wouldn't have done this, this would have never happened. And there is no accountability on this at all. And so there were some other people that were talking about this online, and how this situation spiraled out of control. And this is something that's interesting.
How did nobody see that? Or is it that people and the government and those who are supposed to be the watchdogs, like Tim Walz, like Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, there just weren't looking?
I think it's safe to say that there was a real unwillingness or inability among Democratic state officials in Minnesota to recognize some pretty obvious alarm bells here. All across these programs, claims were skyrocketing, absolutely spiraling out of control over a short period of time. And the reality is that the Somali community, which is where these large-scale fraud rings have been concentrated within this population in the state, it is a sizable voting bloc. It is a voting bloc you have to win if you're going to win political office in Minneapolis. And so I think that was likely an incentive here that made some people not want to look too closely at what's been going on.
So the guy is saying, listen, what are the reasons why this whole thing got out of control? Okay, it got out of control because the Somalis have a strong voting bloc, but nobody wanted to accuse them of doing something because of fear. If we come after Somalis, they may not vote for us next time. And if you're somebody and you want to win, Minneapolis, St. Paul, they're a powerful voting bloc. So let's kind of sweep this underneath the rug as if it did not happen. And yes, some of those people, Democratic politicians, they were never brought to justice for it. Not Keith Ellison, I believe, who's a DA, not Tim Walz, the governor, none of them, okay? They were allowed to do this because how dare we talk about this immigrant base who now have citizenship, and if we come out here and we offend them and hold them accountable, then they will not vote for us again. And unfortunately, I have to talk about this because I live on the continent of Africa, but I gotta call it for what it is. Most countries that I have seen, that I have been, especially, and I'm here not too far from Somalia, but on the Horn, unaccountability is everywhere. If you think that unaccountability is gonna leave Somalia and come into the United States unscathed, you're crazy. Ilhan Omar talks just like any person that I've seen in Uganda that's an African businesswoman or a businessman who promises you one thing and then you pay the money, and then when it's time to deliver on that service, that person's acting like they can't call you back, they can't answer the phone. Oh yeah, we have that in stock. Come back around, it's not in stock. Oh, we can build this particular furniture set for you, and then they can't. And then when you get mad at them for lying, they get mad at you. They make the problem about you. It's one of the biggest tricks in the book in Africa. I mean, everybody who's been in Africa or an African understands what I'm talking about. And they have a whole community that operates like this. It's somebody else's fault. It's the government's fault. And then you want these people to come in and say that they're American citizens and that they're actually contributing. But how can you contribute when you don't want to take any accountability for your community? And this is what happens when certain foreigners come into places and people start disliking them or start hating them and their name is bad. And then they want to go back and say, well, you know what? It's racism. And that's the reason why. It's because we're black immigrants or we're black Muslims. And of course, somebody could always dislike you because you're black, but people could always dislike you because you're delusional. People could always dislike you because you're problematic, because they can think that you're using the system, you're scamming the system, you're not adding on to the system. You are there doing your BS, and you need to go back to where you come from to do the BS. And then when it comes to Ilhan Omar, a sister brought up a very interesting point.
If you're a woman that's from a country that does not appreciate womanhood at all, you have no rights there as a woman, you have no power as a woman, you cannot ever hold any sort of political, any type of political position within the nation that you're from. Why would you not have more appreciation for America? Like, you're given the opportunity here. You were given the opportunity to become empowered, to have a political position. You were given the opportunity to be voted into office after being in debt, what, $50,000 in debt, and then now you're a multimillionaire. Like, what other country can you go to and get an opportunity like that? You damn sure can't go to yours and get like that.
So the lady is saying, listen, Ilhan, you came from Somalia, where you would never have any level of authority. You would never be able to do anything there. You come to America. America gives you the greatest opportunity in your life. You defend your community, and your community is not giving you the opportunity. America gave you the opportunity. So why are you not loyal to who's giving you the opportunity? And this is something that we just have to understand about certain foreigners. Foreigners are always going to be loyal to themselves, okay? They're not going to be loyal to you. They're not going to be loyal to the country. They're going to be loyal to their people first, okay? And if that means, let's say for an example, coming over to a country, using that country for its resources, and then elevating their particular clan or their particular group, they may not even look at the United States as we're building the USA. They may be looking at the United States as what's in it for me. And so the problem is, I see so many folks in the Pan-African community talking about working together as blacks and working together as Africans. You can't work with people like this that have this mentality because they only care about themselves, all right? And so this lady doesn't care about anybody else. She doesn't care that the United States has did this for her. They're gonna literally, and you're gonna have people there, turn Minnesota into what they know back home. And that's all they knew. Some people only know dysfunction. Some people only know scamming. Some people only know destruction. This is not to say that all people do that, because obviously you're going to have talented people in any groups. And I'm pretty sure you got Somalian doctors. I'm pretty sure you got Somalian, attorneys and business people. But we're talking about the people who are bringing down the name of that community. And you're always going to have more people who are doing worse than the people who actually do better. And it's just sad that this unaccountability is now hitting Minnesota, because I deal with it every day. Anybody who lives in Ghana, anybody who lives in Tanzania, and then you deal with Africans in the business market every day. You go to the United States and they don't just, all of a sudden stop that. That same level of unaccountability that they had here, it follows them there, and it becomes a problem for whoever encounters them when they have that mentality, all right? And it's a pain in the ass. Other Africans don't like it. Black Americans don't like it. White people don't like it. If Somalis are not careful, going around here being unaccountable for your mistakes and your actions, it's just gonna get worse. People are going to try to bring you down. That's just what it is, right? Because nobody wants to live with people who feel like they're not responsible for what they do. Just own it. Look, our guys made a mistake. They messed up. We take full accountability for their actions. We're gonna make sure that our community gets it straight, not to do this, not to embarrass us, and we're gonna police our own people. That's what people wanna hear. Cool, yeah, we understand humans make mistakes, but don't go out there and blame the federal government for not catching the scam when your people were running the scam. Well, guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Yoshi D. Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe to the bell. We're out.